Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, answer the question.
I just have to always give honor to her. But I think unfortunately, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. That I'm sure you started back in the day. And actually, I have to probably even ask you. I know homelessness is a huge issue. Still, I mean, just even more so because of the pandemic. You probably didn't have the all of the homicides that we have today, not in this way, but you have
More than we.
more than you needed,
That's
so more than you wanted, the violence. But definitely the thing that I know we're still struggling with is the racism, the structural racism that we all endure. We continue to, my council colleagues and I continue to do prohibitions on discrimination. Just in the last 2 weeks, we have had 2 different ordinances to prohibit discrimination in the last 2 weeks, and so we are still addressing those issues that I'm sure
That's it.
you started. So.
And I'd love to hear your comments, when you look at the council, and know what you experienced and what you were a part of, can you just spend a few minutes talking to us about how you see things 50 years later?
Well, it's tough days for me because there are many rights, human rights, just basic human rights, particularly for African Americans and particularly for females, that I worked on that seem to be now being taken away, and in some cases already taken away and being reduced. I could only add education to your situation because Kansas City is a very large city. And let me make a statement, because we're the only city in the world that has 4 black weekly newspapers. And many of you don't see them all. I see them each copy, and they produce every 7 days. Everybody in here knows what they are, don't they? Don't you? All right. Do you read them? Digitally or on printed form? Okay, thank you very much. But education-wise, because we have so many different school districts, and at that time, most of us lived in this neighborhood, in my neighborhood at the time. And the choice of education was important. I was raised in Kansas City, Kansas, and I still say we had the best education in America at that time. Kansas City, Kansas, in the segregated schools. Because I lived in Rosedale, and every neighborhood had its own elementary black school, but we all had to be bused to the junior high school, and then we went to the Sumner High School, and we were all bused. And by the way, my relatives were the bus company at that time on the first. In fact, the first female bus driver, black female bus driver, was a relative of mine. I just saw her the other day. She's 90-some years old and still proud of that.
Amen.
But education and our parents, my parental and my grandparents who are raising children, we have a different attitude, it seems, today about raising children.
Mm-hmm.
Children don't come home to their parents, or whenever their parents come home from work, where their parents ask them, what did you study today? Even when parents didn't know as much as the children did about the subject matter, they checked on them and made it important to be well educated. And that's primarily, and I don't blame the children. I blame the parents and the grandparents. And I'm still very concerned about the lack of leadership in the black community, and particularly for my black women, and the educating of our own children and other of our children, because they're all children. And my daughter, she's not gonna like this. I'm always saying we're all God's children. We're all God's children. And I believe we have the right, God-given right, to be treated fairly and to treat our own. Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, because you just walked into the next question.
Thank you.
You just walked into the next question. Both of these women are champions for girls and women. I know that Ms. Joanne Collins is one of the founding members of the Central Exchange. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the Central Exchange, I don't know at this point how old it is, but it's a women's leadership development organization that's been around for a very long time. Primarily white women go through the Central Exchange. It's very expensive to be a part of the Central Exchange. And as you can see, she's wearing one of our shirts. So since day one, 7 years ago, when we decided to start this thing called Black Women Get Fit, Raina Parkshaw was right there sharing her stories around health and wellness. So I would love for each one of you to just kind of speak about leadership for girls and Black women and where we are in Kansas City right now, and any guidance or thoughts you have about how we can continue to develop Black girls and women specifically and keep them in the pipeline so that they are ready for these new opportunities that are gonna be in Kansas City.
So I think there are a lot of fabulous organizations, this one included, that are really doing that. They are really trying to reach out to the next generation. Definitely it's a commitment of mine, and actually it's a highlight of being a council person. There's a lot of things that I don't like about it, but that's one of the things that I love, is to be able to inspire the next generation and to help them, to mentor them, to bring them forward. I think, just overall, for us as Black women, I know that many of us work so hard for our churches, in our families, and many times do not put ourselves first. And that's one of the reasons why I love this organization, why I support Black Women Get Fit, because you all inspire us and encourage us to continue to put ourselves first. Because, and the saying, when you get on the airplane, if you don't take care of yourself, you gotta put your mask on first, put your kids' mask on. And I think that concept is key in this, as we look towards the future, as we look towards making sure that the next generation can thrive and have it better than us. We have to take care of ourselves first, but also reach out to them. And so to the question of, what can we do to ensure that we continue to move each other forward, I think, I don't know if you all thought about maybe even doing a young girls group, maybe that could be something that we could add to that. But there are many different organizations that are, that have events and activities for young girls. I think if there is a collection of those different leaders of those groups maybe getting together to talk about how we can come up with something more formal, would be great. And I just want to take a moment to, just because I'm in this space, I need to announce that the council members, the current council actually just established it's called KC Futures Commission, led by 3rd District at Large Councilwoman Melissa Patterson Hasley and her interns. But we are starting a youth and a young adult commission where we are looking for young folks. 13 to 18 is the youth commission, and the young adult commission is 19 to 24, where we are trying to bring leaders in. So if you know of anyone that you would like to recommend for that, and we're trying to seek them in the next 30 days. So if you know of anyone that may be interested, please, reach out to me or talk to me afterwards. I can tell you how we can connect them, but I would love to see our young Black girls be in leadership roles on those commissions.
May I interrupt you to add to that I also would like to promote the Madam President program, 13 to 18 for girls, because we have been trying to encourage African American girls to participate in that program, which provides leadership skills and development skills and encouragement skills. I'm still critical of how we do not encourage our children on a day-by-day basis from the time they come out of the womb till you're no longer. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Add on.
Go ahead, I was finished. Go ahead.
What was it?
Well, it was about how we champion girls and women, and specifically, if you could talk about the Central Exchange and how that has evolved over the years.
It's not developing the programs that it used to, but it still has those programs available. You're right, it's very expensive, but we have ways of subsidizing or underwriting individuals who cannot afford it, and we could do it in a very, very professional way. The other organizations that are available are, where I'm also disappointed, is in our church leadership that we used to have, and our school leadership that we used to have, and our civil rights organizations not doing, in fact, you're filling a gap with this program and any other program. We learn how to take care of ourselves physically. And for those of you who don't realize it, I've been going to exercise class for 22 years. I live downtown now at 10th and Main, and I have a beautiful fitness center on the second floor. But I get past it, go and get in my car, drive to Rosedale, to KU, to the Landing Center for free service. And I have been doing that for 22 years, twice a week, when the roads allow me to drive. So physically, and we have a lot of those folks in here that are physical leadership, and that's a new day for me to see African American women being leaders in the physical aspect, because it not only helps the body, it helps the mind and the soul. And the soul needs a whole lot of help. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, not at all, because again, you keep leading me into the next question. You mentioned leadership in the Black community, and I think that I hear that a lot. There are a lot of groups. There's a lot of leaders in this room. I see women who lead a variety of different organizations in this room. But we don't seem to ever have a collective, unified front. And what I mean by that is not we have to agree to everything,
Right.
but to just agree on one or two things so that we can present it to the council and make some movement and make things happen. So historically, our leadership has come from the church. Our churches are beginning to disintegrate in front of our eyes.
Yes.
I mean, churches that have historically
They don't
had-
even believe that we're all God's children.
well, and that's a problem, and that's a problem. Then we have our civil rights organizations that are barely puttering along. So we have a leadership void. Young people are saying that there's this generational gap, that we won't give them space and time. And older folks are saying, we'll give you space and time, but you just can't come up here and run amok. So there's just this push and pull on leadership. I would love to get you all's thoughts about just Black leadership and how we get to a point where we move our communities forward. Because we've got 400 organizations with 3 people killing themselves in each one of those organizations to make things happen.
You're right, Honorable Barnes, because we don't have family reunions anymore. We're not documenting our generations of our own family. Some of us are not even proud of our own names that you don't articulate. I always ask, what is your name? And you give me your first name, I ask you, what is your last name? I want to know who you are and your generations. Another issue that I look at here, the only male in the room, I think, works at the post office. And I worked at the post office many years ago, was back one of the first class of full-time female clerks on Pershing Road back in the late 50s. And I realized that Congressman Cleaver is now championing an issue that I brought to his attention. I live downtown and I had mail 3 days a week. When I lived at 4030 Bell Fountain, I had mail 6 days a week. But I look, of course, many of you don't write checks like I do, and you don't send out cards, greeting cards, like I do. So I still use the post office, and we need it. And as you now know, the headlines, not only locally but nationally, is the lack of services in the post office. And that's another problem on immigration, because we depend on some immigrants to do the work that's necessary in our day-to-day lives, and we're not supporting that department, and well, that's another issue. So, thank you, ma'am. And we need to run for public office too out there, not just the 2 of us and the other 2 elected officials. Thank you very much. But we need to run for public office. I don't know if I answered your question, but did I lead you to another one?
Yes, you did. And do you have anything you want to add to that?
I actually have a question.
Okay, all right. So last March or May, I can't remember which, but Mayor Quentin Lucas seated the Mayor's Commission on Reparations. Reparations is a big deal. It's global. It's not just in the United States, but it's going on across the entire world. I am the chair of the Mayor's Commission on Reparations, and we have 5 harm areas that we're looking at. It's health, economics, education, housing, and criminal justice. And specifically what we're doing is taking a look at Kansas City history, Kansas City policies, practices, and procedures over the past 100 years to see if we have things in place that have made it structurally difficult for African Americans to receive what they should receive in all of those areas. I would just love to hear, because she was, Mayor Pro Tem was on the council, it was unanimously approved, and I would just love to hear your comments, and then of course, Ms. Joanne Collins, I'd love to hear your comments as well.
Yeah, definitely, I was a co-sponsor of the legislation to establish the commission, and definitely it's something that I needed to happen, and I'm glad that we are moving forward in that vein. I know one of the aspects that is a current conversation now is looking at the funding, what kind of funding you all will have to be able to move forward to ensure that we can progress through, you know, what would reparations look like here in Kansas City. But it amazes me that how many comments, emails, things that I've heard from people that say, you know, we don't need it.
Woo!
That it did, you know, it's not necessary, and you know, it didn't happen, and you know, it's no problem. And we are seeing it still today, the impact of the systemic racism, the systemic issues that have occurred and plagued all of us. And so it's frustrating, honestly, you know, because we have people that don't get it, that don't understand. But I'm hopeful that through education that we will be able to provide the information that even some of us need to hear about why reparations is important and why we need to continue to pursue that for those who have been affected.
I tell people all the time that we're really lucky in Kansas City because we've done a lot of work. You guys have heard about the redlining studies, you've heard about the J.C. Mickle covenants.
Yeah.
So we understand how black people didn't live past 27th Street some years ago. We've got studies done on General Hospital 1 and 2, how we couldn't get medical care. We had a huge desegregation case, it lasted 30 years. So when you think about the impact that would have had on school children, and right now today in 2024, our third grade students are not reading on proficient levels, 80%. So think about that. 80% of our third grade students cannot read. So that just perpetuates, right? And so you end up with a lot of functional, illiterate black folks graduating from school, looking for a job that they may not have the skill set for, and then they end up doing other things. Because if you can't make a living and make a way for your families, you start to choose other things. And I am not supposed to be talking. So
I'm just saying, that ladies and gentlemen, you are blessed to have a leader as such as she. Because I'm telling you, just being African American and female, and for those of you who do not like to attend meetings, I attend sometimes 4 to 5 a day. I tell everybody I don't want to offend anybody's faith. I get up with Jesus and I go to bed with jazz. And my daughter will tell you, I get up every morning with Jesus and I go to bed with jazz 3 or 4 days a week. I love black theater, I love white theater, I love music, and it's just a woo-hoo in the church. I do, and that's, you guys don't like to go to meetings. You don't want to be on the boards up. I've been in the business of recruiting black women and for organizations that used to be a full-time job. And everybody tells me, Ms. Collins, thank you very much for your leadership, but excuse me, you've got to assume the positions of leadership in every aspect of our lives. And if you don't do that as an individual, and you should be complimented because as a spouse of, you know what the negatives and the positives of being in elective office, and you kind of shy away from that, but you're providing leadership in the outside in the community. And I really do appreciate what the YWCA, the YMCA, and what's left of the YWCA, and the YMCA, but the leadership of the League of Women Voters, all of our sororities and our fraternities, all of our individual groups, but our individual families. Each one of you should be running for office. All of you should, at whatever age it's possible. Please provide that leadership for our children and the unborn generations to come, because we still have some unborn generations to come. I'm going to hold that to the good Lord. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna share an announcement and then we're gonna open this up to see if you all have any questions for these ladies. One of the things that she just mentioned is arts and culture. And I wanted you guys write this down, write this name down and keep it in your head. Kalia Davis. So just yesterday was the opening night for the Coterie Theater. They just hired Kalia Davis from San Francisco to run the Coterie. So the first time in 50 plus years, the Coterie has an
My daughter's
incredibly
gonna leave early.
beautiful, talented Black woman leading that organization. So I'm sure she's incredible. I was lucky enough to be invited to her opening night reception, and as you can imagine, it was probably 50 to 75 people in the room. There were 6 Black people in the room, and out of the 6 Black people that were in the room, 3 of them were part of the production set. So we are not there. We after the reception, we went into the Coterie Zine Crown Center for the opening night, which was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was full, and there was 1 Black family. The entire theater was filled with white folks. So I say that out loud to encourage you to, number one, look her up, Kalia Davis, K-H-A-L-I-A, Kalia Davis. She's been here 4 days from San Francisco. She's got an incredible resume, incredible background, and she is very clear that diversifying the theater is one of her missions. One thing that you will get before you leave today from Black Women Get Fit is something called the Drop. The Drop is a card that you could use at 12 different arts and culture institutions. The Coterie is not one of them, but the KC Rep is, and regardless of what they are playing or performing, that card, Nina Simone, that card will allow you to purchase $10 tickets. So I know that the Nina Simone tickets are $60. If you have a drop card, which if you are here at the end of this event, every one of you will get a drop card. It will allow you to get that ticket for $10. So currently it's a pilot. It's coming out of Arts Kansas City, and it's a pilot to desperately encourage us to be engaged in the arts. So there are only 12 organizations that are part of it for the pilot, but the KC Rep is one of them. Starlight Theater is another. The Starlight. So if they bring Earth, Wind, and Fire, and those tickets are $125. If you have a drop card, $10. And so for
And Richie, can you get me?
So no, the T-Mobile Center is not part of the program. But if this goes well, hopefully more organizations will be part of the drop card. So there are 12 now, and hopefully there will be more. So at this point, I would love to open up this discussion to any questions that we have out on the floor. And we have a question here from Ms. Shafika Small, who is the president of the local chapter of the Black United Front.
And she makes Kwanzaa happen, continue to happen.
That's right.
After Dr. Webster went back to the mother country. But she takes care of Kwanzaa, and Kwanzaa is the best. And by the way, how many of you were there this year? I was there every night but one.
She was there every night, and graciously decided to not give her age, since every night we recognize the eldest senior, just so somebody else can get a sash. So I have a question for you, Brenda, around the program that you mentioned for developing young people. Is this focused just for young ladies?
It's for youth.
Okay, for
Youth,
youth.
yeah, for all youth.
Okay, and then this is a shameless plug on something that you did, Sister Terry Barnes. The space that you brought all of the female-led organizations into, and people may not be aware that she produces a book that shows all of the nonprofits. So this is me publicly saying that I would love for us
That's
to
how it happens out there in the other world.
start from that space, and we could look to do that again. And my shameless
March.
plug is that this is the 45th annual National Convention of the National Black United Front in Kansas City. Will be hosting
International.
Well, international, absolutely, because we have membership in other continents and countries. We will be the host of that, and this is one in a bucket drop of so many things that are happening in the city. I am not native to here, but since moving here, this feels like a very warm, wonderful place where I've been embraced by the East Side, because I'm from the East Side of San Antonio, y'all. And I moved here from Dallas, and it is not necessarily what you may think it is. So what I'm saying is that the conversation that's taking place here, all the calls to action, we do have the opportunity to work together on these things. I would love for you, both of you all, to be able to create that space again, and I will do whatever is needed to facilitate. You know, I cook, I clean, I drive, I do whatever. So that we can maybe do exactly what you charged us with. We do have a lot of female-led organizations that are community-facing, and how can we get ourselves together, maybe we can actually provide in the next 30 days, some of those youth.
Why are you all scared to talk about we development, please?
We development, wow, I had no idea, this was me asking for some help. The National Black United Front has several different initiatives, and one of the initiatives that started more than a decade ago, actually 13 years to be exact, was having an economic base that would show up in the way of financial safety for our community. And it took 12 years to get the charter just to be able to open up a Black credit union. And it sits on the corner of Prospect and 31st. And it is meant to focus on the footprint that most of us live in here. So if you live and or work within a particular footprint of Kansas City Metro, you can become a member for $5. And there are programs that exist there that are in reaction to what we know about financial institutions. There's another systemic racial space that oftentimes keeps us out of the conversation. So there are products that are there that don't exist in other credit unions, to include funding that may be backed other than the FDIC. So since we know that we're still working on our financial literacy and our financial stability, to be able to have loan programs or even incubators for small businesses or people who have business concepts. So please, take your $5 and go open up an account in development, because so many people work to make that happen, and if we don't actually populate the credit union, it won't continue.
The anti-check cashing businesses that are operating
Absolutely,
in our
absolutely. Deposit your money somewhere else.
Okay, so who's going to open up their account? Let's get a commitment. It's about the
And you
action.
get a card, y'all, if you want to get
Action.
like original account holders. My son and I get our little statements and we be so excited. Unfortunately, Wyandotte County, no, but if you do business, if you work in the footprint, you also can make there. That means you need to get office over here. Welcome. Good guys, welcome.
Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Tracy Russell. I'm a student at MCC. I used to be a leader with KC Tenants, and I used to help with the homeless union, and I used to be a part of Black Rainbow. And I became a sworn-in city council member of the Housing Trust Fund Board. But at the time, I didn't have like all the support I needed, because it's a lot of mental and emotional strain, because you are not only dealing with your own injustice, but you're helping other people's injustice. So I'm 37, I'm not young enough for the programs, but I still would like help and mentorship and somebody to keep me motivated so I can keep going in the right direction. I'm from Memphis, I'm not from here. I fight for Kansas City because there's a lot of people who are low income and in the same situations that I have been in, or in some that I still am in. So I don't mind fighting for Kansas City because this is my new home, but if you can assist me, please do.
Yes, and yes. I had a conversation, just tell you how things work. So you all have heard of Help Forward Foundation. They have a boatload of money. They got a ton of money. And I happened to be leaving a meeting, and Jason Williams, who is over one of the funding areas, we were walking to the car together. And I said, brother, you know I need some money for Black Women Get Fit and the DA project and all the things that we're doing. And we had this conversation about what they were interested in. And he said, do you guys do anything around civic engagement? I said, we can.
Of course we can.
And I think what we have just talked about is absolutely civic engagement. So yes, if you are looking for a space where we can come together and share and leverage off of one another. Look for that from the NIA project. Because civic engagement, we are not at the table. Whether it's housing, education, economics, we are not at the table. And I tell you, if this group of women would show up for any one topic, it would get the attention it needs. But we need to be organized, and we need to be willing to say, sis, I'm gonna let your initiative go this year, and I'm gonna sit my initiative down, because we're gonna all fight for your initiative so we can get one thing done. Questions? Because I can ask them. There's one back here. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, and thank you for the information. It's been very informative. Now I'm from the Kansas side, and we're just right across the border.
Ooh, y'all are a struggle bus in case.
We are, and I'm hearing,
struggle bus over here.
and I'm hearing a lot about the programs, and they seem to be Missouri focused, which is fine. But what initiatives are taking place to bring the both cities together? I mean, there's a lot of us that cross organizations, but maybe due to funding, it may be focused in one city over the other. I don't know, so that's what I'm asking.
So I can talk about, I mean, you know, a lot of the money flows, you know, the state, county dollars, city dollars are gonna stay with their jurisdiction. But, you know, recognizing with the work that I've done on the Mayor's Houseless Task Force, we recognize that homelessness doesn't have a city line, a county line, or a state line. And so I'm working to bring the regional conversation together. I know the mayor is focused on that as well. But in terms of specific, like I actually serve on a regional housing partnership where we are creating a strategic plan for the next 10 years for housing, which will include, you know, addressing homelessness and all of those things. The dollars haven't started funneling there yet, other than to create the strategies. So I think what I would say is, even though the conversations are happening, we haven't figured out how to make the dollars flow that way because it's all, you know, jurisdiction based. But the foundations have an ability to cross whatever line they want. So maybe a collective conversation could be from all these entities here and making the ask to the different foundations, the Health Board Foundation, the Hall Foundation, the DeBruce Foundation. There's a whole list of foundations that have dollars. And maybe if there are strategies that we can put together, a plan that we could present to them to see if they will fund, you know?
And so last year, that's our collective work.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
last year, did anybody in the room, did you attend our collective work? It was a meeting of women-focused organizations. I know there was some KCK there. And one of the things that struck us was the comment that said, when you talk about black women issues and black girl issues, you couldn't tell if it was KCK or KC, because they were the same.
Amen.
They were the same. And so the question was, what can we do together? Because it's just a line, right? What can we do together? So we're gonna March, which is Women's History Month. We will reconvene. So if any of you are interested in that, leave your email address with us so that you can be invited to that conversation. KCK or Kansas City, Missouri. And I want to give Ms. Joanne Collins an opportunity to respond to that question about Kansas, because you spend time.
I have done that because I've been a member of 50 organizations, and most of them have been both areas. And I've always told people that you really can't tell when it comes to black women where they live, because they're going to work on behalf of black community in total, as well as white community and any colors there in between, and leadership. But any mentoring that can be done, just ask me for a card. My daughter says you recommend yourself to advise one-on-one. You may not accept what I say, and that's fine with me. You can abuse me or misuse me, or ignore me. But whatever it is that you need, I'll be glad to connect you to individuals who can help you in any direction.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Yes,
I have one. I'm in the front, so I'm not going to stand up too much. But I'm Nicole. I'm actually in school right now for my.
What's your last name, Nicole?
Johnson.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And project. Use your outdoor voice.
Yes, I am in school right now to get my master's in licensed practical counseling. So mental health for Black individuals is really important for me, and I'll actually be starting a nonprofit through the national chapter of Black counselors at the end of the year. So how would you go about getting funding if you're really interested in starting a nonprofit? Or there's something.
And the beautiful thing about Kansas City, there are so many resources for entrepreneurship, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit. And to be honest, I talked about that yesterday because there's so many incubators for profits, but there's two areas that you don't see a lot of support. One is nonprofits, and the other one is arts and culture. So our creatives, our singers, our artists, how do they develop? How do they connect? And those conversations are happening, but we're not at the table. So if anybody has an interest in any of those things, I would love to help connect you.
You have your hand up.
Yes, my name is Estella Tucker, and I'm not a native of Kansas City, but my children are. So I've been here for a while, so I claim myself as a native because originally I'm from Mississippi. My name is Estella Tucker, and my children attended Lincoln Prep, and they also attended different colleges as well. But I wanted to ask about the arts. One thing that I noticed about the arts is that over in the outer communities, they have different things for children in film. They have different things in broadcasting and certain things that in the urban core, they don't have that. And that's one of the things that I feel that as a Black community and an urban community, that's something that we should definitely try to talk about and bring and come to the table and help to provide funding for that, because at one point they were trying to take all of the music and all that stuff out. And it's a well-needed thing for everybody, so that way children will be well-rounded. They'll be able to make choices on what they want to do, and then not only that, it'll also help give them guidance on like making sound decisions and what they can do for their future. So if they want to be filmmakers, if they want to do this and that, they can do that.
Yes.
And one of the things that I appreciate about being here today is such an honor, ma'am, in meeting you. I know who you are, Mrs. Shaw, but I didn't know much about you, and it's a pleasure in meeting you today. No,
But I want to indicate to you the email. Cleaver at the Bruce R. Watkins is can connect you there, and Kevin Wilmot KU can connect you in the filmmaking area.
Okay, will do. And then you had mentioned something about the Coterie Theater and the lady that's been a director, and why it wasn't a lot of attendees. Well, every first Friday of the month, they open up all of the galleries and stuff. So people be attending those, right? And so that's what was happening. So that's one thing that you probably need to keep in mind too when you are having meetings, because a lot of times the white culture is it's a lot of Blacks too, but it's mainly a white culture. They're supporting the Crossroads, so a lot of times if you're having it on that night, a lot of times they're out there supporting that, because I was one of the ones that was supporting Karen Griffin over at the Bunker Theater. She had her Black.
She had a great show last night.
Last night, first Fridays. And then I was over at the Letty studio as well, because they were dealing with mental illness and they had an exhibit for that. So we have to like kind of pay attention to the itinerary, because it'll help, so.
That's why I also talk about the 4 Black newspapers. You want to know what's going on.
Yeah,
They try to keep you educated.
Yes, ma'am.
Especially the ones that have no cost. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not from here.
That's all right. Stand up and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Rajana Brooks. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm from here. I moved here it'll be 8 years this summer that I'll be here. So you mentioned the 4 Black newspapers. Since I'm not a native of Kansas City, can you tell me what's the 4 Black newspapers?
The Community Voice, which you primarily can get in businesses, Black businesses, and digitally all on a daily basis. And the what's the newspaper? KC.
That's actually 6.
There's 6. I know 4 of them. I get
The Kansas City Call, the next page,
the KC next page,
the next page, the Kansas City Call,
and the Globe is supposed to just of the highest distribution.
Community Voice. And then there's one called, that's it, Case Defender. It's a digital, it's online only, so it's not physical. Casey
Defender.
The Casey Defender. And then there's a Missouri Post Dispatch. That's also a black.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that one.
It's a physical copy.
Can't hear you. Project your voice.
I was just gonna tell her, I find out a lot about Kansas City in the Wichita paper. They have everything that's going on in Wichita paper.
Yes.
That's the community voice.
All right, any other questions from the audience so that we can wind down and make sure that we wrap up on time? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marsha A. Wells, and not a question, but I need to just say the energy in this place right now. I'm finding tears because it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to look out and see my sisters being so positive and uplifting and complimenting each other and loving each other and giving positive strokes and sending out that information and sending out that love, because that's something that we miss. That's something that we miss. And we need this daily. Don't care how many initials you have behind your name or none. It's the love of being a sister, being a mother, being all those things to each other. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind. It doesn't cost you anything to say a kind word to somebody or someone. And to pick them up, because you never know just what a smile can do. And from what I have gotten out of this group, these ladies in this room, I am high.
You stand back up, stand back up. And I want you to tell them what you really do. Tell them what you really do. She's a badass. I'm sorry. Apologize to me. Apologize to her. Tell them what you really do. Because we will be bringing her back this year. Her group was with us 2 years ago, and it was a room just like this. Tell them what you do.
I believe in protection. I believe that everyone has the right to defend themselves. Okay?
CCW.
I do teach personal defense. I'm a firearm instructor. Personal defense. Now, in over 40 years, I have carried firearms. Over 40 years.
Yes.
Ask me how many times I've ever shown it to use it. 0.
Right.
Why? Because it's up here. It's up here. That's where gun control starts. Up here. All right? And that's what I teach. Oh, I can teach you to shoot all that. I can teach you to shoot a pistol. I can teach you an AR, a rifle, shotgun. But this is where I like to get in, right up here. Teach you when not to and how to avoid and all the things in between. How to use your head, because that's where it starts. It starts with your thought. So I do have a group of ladies that we work with, and we work in classroom, we work on the range, we work with pads, because not always are you gonna have a firearm, and most people are they're so afraid of it, and you shouldn't be, because it's a tool. This pin in my purse is a tool.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't tell you what I can do with this. Okay, it's a tool. All right, the teeth in your mouth are tools. If you need to, but do you always have to? No. So it's a heartfelt and it's a passion of mine, but that's what I do. And to show, and I work with men and women, but I really like to work with women in particular and Black women in particular, because you're thrust out into an environment that is not always friendly to you. Just because you're there. Whether it's in your home, at work, at the grocery store, you have all these things to contend with. All right? And the awareness portion is a lot of things that we like to hone in on too. And there's a group of us ladies that work on that. We don't teach you how to quote unquote kill anything or anybody. giving a bug. That's not what we do. That's not what we do. You're not gonna hear that in our conversation. Okay, we just wanna teach you how to be safe and the best way to go about it. Okay?
Everybody look in the middle, this young lady, she's having a good time.
As we prepare to close out this wonderful conversation, and I'm gonna give these two ladies the last comments to just share their comments. Two things. Don't leave without the drop card, and I forgot them, so my husband's bringing them over. I forgot them, but he's bringing them over, so don't leave without a drop card. And number two, if you are interested in continuing this conversation about civic engagement and how we as Black women can come together to identify issues that are important to us and get educated about what's happening today, where the gaps are, what organizations are already doing things, because there's so much going on in Kansas City, but we're all on the struggle bus. Right. You know, it's all three people trying to serve in the food insecurity spaces, two people trying to serve in the houselessness space. We all need to kind of get collective together, get organized, and present what we need to our wonderful sister in the city council, Mayor Pro Tem, Raina Park Shaw, and I'm gonna let you have the last comment, and then.
No, she had the last comment.
Well,
No,
well, you each will have, we have time for each.
Can I make a real quick announcement?
Yes.
So, and it ties in with everything. So I want y'all to know that I'm always gonna shout out whatever you do in life. So if I roll up on you at your job, I'm gonna shout you out. Everybody that is up here has something that's gonna be reflected 1 week from today at the Buy Black Expo. So there will be a showing of the documentary, The Big Payback, that brings into our awareness how reparations has already taken place. There is space for people that have organizations, or if you're an emerging entrepreneur, it would be a good place to go to see what it looks like on all levels. It is a Buy Black Expo, and there's an app that you can get on if you have a business that costs you nothing. And there's also going to be many of the organizations that we're saying right now are not very visible. So the NAACP, the Urban League, the Black United Front. So if you have an organization, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are just curious, if you love being in community, we have to start showing up to each other's things. And if you look on my page or anywhere, I'm just all Black History Month is where I'm kicking off. This sister right here teach hydroponic growing. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So there's no reason for us to not know, and we can keep showing up together. So I'm saying this, y'all, because the momentum is high, and what this sister just described is what I'm feeling too. Just the overwhelm of the beauty of being with each other. So we have to keep carrying each other through these spaces, because we show up for everybody else's stuff. So we gotta show up together for each other.
So with that, I will ask for some help, because I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling the love as well. But late last year, there was an announcement or a story that came out that Missouri is the worst place for Black women to live. Missouri, the worst state for Black women to live, because of the fact that we have more homicides. Have more homicides. We have, actually, if you look at the homicidal numbers, there were more Black women that were killed than even other races, definitely women, but even men too. And so, not except for Black men. We also, because of the way that society looks at when Black women are missing, that is a significant concern as well. We already know there's so many disparities that Black women, Black people in general, but Black women specifically see more of in terms of, cancer rates, the maternal mortality. We're 2 and 3 times more likely to die giving birth, all of those different things. So Missouri is the worst place for Black women to live, and I want to do something about it. And so I am asking you for your help to help me come up with some ideas and policies to work on how we can address that. we know, and especially domestic violence too, our women are struggling, and I didn't realize how bad it was in terms of us not having places to go because of the way that the systems are set up, the way that the shelters are set up. Even they're not set up in a way for us to thrive. So if you work in that space, or you know someone who does, and any of those things that I've mentioned or haven't mentioned, please reach out to me, because I have 3.5 years left in this role, and I would love to be able to dedicate myself to trying to make at least Kansas City better for us. So thank you, and thank you. I guess I need to say thank you. I'm sorry. That's obviously, you can tell that's passion in my heart. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share the space with you, and because you're awesome yourself, and Ms. Collins. But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity to serve you.
Speaking of that, a person who's taken up leadership role, and that's the mayor of St. Louis. She wrote a beautiful Black History letter to everyone, nationally. And I got a copy of it yesterday, and it just spoke ways of what she's doing in St. Louis and how she respects all of us. But her leadership is a good example of what you need. Thank you. It's been great being here, but I had this personal show of this young lady here all by myself. Focused on. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Leave us with any words you'd like to share with us.
I've done that.
You've
Thank
done
you.
that. All right.
Thank you.